Hi, I'm Rachel, and welcome to my channel, La Bricoleuse, where I share techniques and tricks I've learned from over 25 years working as a costume craftsperson. In this video, I'll demonstrate an important skill for theater costumers: how to rubberize shoe soles. Actors Equity, the union representing stage managers and performers in the United States, requires that all shoes worn in performance have non-slip rubber soles. Many contemporary shoes are manufactured with rubber soles. Athletic shoes, yes, but also formal and fashionable styles. But if a costume designer chooses shoes with a leather or composite plastic sole, a rubber layer must be applied. A local cobbler can do this. That can cost between $20 and $50 a pair, depending on where you are and how fast you need it done. If a show has a lot of shoes that need rubberizing, those costs can quickly add up. A costume professional on staff who can rubberize shoes in-house is an incredible resource. This is also just a useful skill to have. By rubberizing your own footwear for daily use, you can prolong the life of the shoe and make them safer for daily wear. I'll show you what supplies and equipment you need to rubberize shoes for equity compliance and how to do it safely. I am not an industrial health and safety expert. These techniques and recommendations are just what I've learned from mentors and policies in place at workplaces throughout my career. You should have a health and safety professional in your state check for compliance before you adopt this process as a service that your workplace provides. Here are the tools and supplies you'll need to rubberize a pair of shoes. Sheets of shoe rubber. This is sold in a range of colors, black and tan being the most common. Different tread patterns are available, some with a brand name like Vibram or Cat's Paw. It also comes in several thicknesses. I typically use 2 to 3 millimeter thick rubber sheets for this task. I prefer to use a solvent-based contact adhesive like barge cement. The solvent in barge is toxic though, so I wear a silicone half-face respirator with the appropriate cartridges when working with it. I also wear protective butyl gloves when applying it to shoe soles in case I get some on my finger. If you're in a state like California, where you can't purchase barge because of its toxicity levels, ask a local health and safety representative to recommend an alternative. For example, one shop I worked at in Los Angeles in 2005 used a water-based contact adhesive called Yupaco 1812. A leather rougher is helpful to scratch up the soles of the shoes you'll rubberize before you apply the glue. A rough surface is better than a smooth one for getting a good bond with a contact adhesive. You'll also need a mallet or a dead blow hammer and a utility knife. The last thing you'll need is one of these, a cobbler's anvil or a boot iron. If your costume studio doesn't have one, you can often find them at antique malls and junk shops. They may be rusty, but are easily cleaned up for renewed use. Check out my video on how to restore these tools. Now it's time to demonstrate the process. I'll be applying rubber to the leather soles of these beautiful embroidered Turkish slippers. Since the leather of the turned up toes is painted black, I'm using this sheet of black crepe rubber. First, I need a pattern for the rubber. For these flat slippers, I'm rubberizing the entire sole up to the point where the toe curls up. I trace around the shoe on a piece of paper and determine how far up the toe the rubber will extend in order to accommodate the stride of the wearer. I'm using a Sharpie here so you can easily see my marks in this video, but I would ordinarily just use a pencil. Then I give myself a 1/2 inch allowance around the edge of the sole. I'll trim that down later. I use this pattern to cut out the pieces of rubber. Here's a tip. A ballpoint pen works great for marking these shapes. It even shows up on black rubber. Remember when I mentioned scarring up the soles for a better contact adhesive bond? If you don't have a roughing tool, you can use coarse grit sandpaper or a rasp for this purpose. Time to prepare to apply the glue. I have a separate room with extractive ventilation that I can close off for these processes requiring a respirator. I put up a warning sign so my coworkers know to don PPE before entering the space. If you don't have this type of facility, you can do this part of the process outdoors. You should still wear a respirator though. Apply a uniform thin coat of the glue to both the shoe sole and the rubber layer you're applying. Let both sides completely dry. In one smooth motion, apply the rubber layer to the shoe sole, then put the shoe onto the cobbler's anvil sole side up and hammer the two layers together. The hammer strikes should start in the center of the sole and move toward the outside edges in a vaguely circular path. Use the utility blade to carefully pare away the excess rubber around the edge of the sole. I like to use a hooked blade for this task, also called a roofing knife. These beautiful equity-compliant shoes are now ready to be worn in rehearsal or performance.